Welcome to Africa Geotrends, your window into Africa's power, progress, and geopolitics. Asterisk before we dive in, hit subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss the stories shaping Africa's future. At dawn on the rugged coastline of South Africa, a single ripple in the sea of energy politics begins. In a land burdened by load shedding and power scarcity, the promise of small modular nuclear reactors emerges as something almost unimaginable. Reliable baseload power grown on African soil, powered by Chinese technology, built in Africa's time zone. The country that once relied on aging coal fleets and imported gas is now signing agreements to bring next-generation atomic solutions to fault-line grids. This is not hype. This is strategic. As Africa's population soars, its demand for affordable, clean, continuous power becomes existential. Blackouts are no longer just economic drag. They are political crises, social fractures, and invisible restraints that hinder growth. That vacuum has opened a door. China, with its state-backed nuclear giants and export-ready reactor platforms, steps in. Memorandums of understanding have been signed with South Africa, Ghana, Kenya, and others to deploy reactors that African engineers will operate, African planners will commission, and African homes and factories will power. The technology is no longer distant. It's deployed, modular, scalable, and making its way to the continent. Underneath the agreements is a deeper narrative. Africa is craving energy sovereignty, and China is ready to sell it. In this hour, we explore how these nuclear deals with Africa could become the hidden solution to blackouts, the overlooked shift in global energy geopolitics, and perhaps the dawn of a new power map. This is the story of reactors in Africa, silent, steady, and strategic. Across the continent, one factor looms large: the number of people still living without reliable electricity. According to the United Nations, over 600 million Africans lacked access to clean power in 2024, nearly half the population. In grid-connected nations, blackouts are daily reality. Utilities struggle with load factors, aging coal plants, and intermittent renewables. Enter nuclear energy, usually reserved for wealthy, industrialized countries, but now becoming part of Africa's energy agenda. In Ghana, a framework deal signed in 2024 names China as vendor for an Hualong 1 large reactor while U.S. firms cover small modular reactors, SMRs. In South Africa, a 2025 Memorandum of Understanding between NECSA and CNNC focuses on SMRs, nuclear fuel cycle collaboration, and advanced fuels. China's strategy is deliberate. Its domestic fleet of over 60 reactors and plans to build another 400 gigawatts by 2060 give it technological depth. Its export platform now includes the Hualong 1 design, the ACP-100 modular reactor and fuel cycle services, all positioned for Africa's need for cost-effective baseload power. The continent's appeal is clear: vast underserved grids, young populations, fast industrialization, and fewer legacy technologies. South Africa's deal frames the narrative. With one operating nuclear power station at Coburg and a history of advanced reactor research, such as the cancelled PBMR project, the country sees nuclear as part of its just energy transition. The agreement with China envisions several gigawatts of new nuclear capacity using SMR technologies to complement expanding wind and solar. For China, SMRs offer a modular, scalable option suited to Africa's smaller grids and remote regions, sites where large reactors might struggle economically or technically. That suitability is emphasized in CNNC's literature. But the technology is only one side of the story. Financing and geopolitics loom large. China offers build-operate-transfer models, state-backed loans, and long-term service agreements that undercut Western players saddled by stricter disclosure, higher cost, and slower diplomacy. And a 924 megawatts SMR chain via U.S./Japan cooperation. That split reflects Africa's strategic position, receiving offers from major powers, negotiating trade-offs between technology, cost, and sovereignty. China's 2024 Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, FOCAC, adopted a Beijing Action Plan, 2025 to 2027, that named a China-Africa Forum for the peaceful use of nuclear technology. At least half of the African countries planning nuclear programs now list Chinese vendors as preferred suppliers. The scale of ambition shifts the logic. Africa's blackout problems are not simply being outsourced. They being engineered to a new standard. Consider the challenge. A mining hub in northern Namibia needs 300 megawatts of continuous power to operate 24/7, yet its grid drops 50 times per month. A remote grid in Rwanda's highlands requires stable baseload to support data centers and cloud infrastructure. Large renewables help, but without steady power, many value-added processes falter. SMRs are pitched as the answer: compact, factory-built, scalable, and less labor-intensive than conventional reactors. For Africa, this becomes not just about electricity. It becomes about industrialization, data production, and regional autonomy. The implications are sweeping. If Africa witnesses hundreds of megawatts of nuclear deployment in the next decade, the continent's energy structure will shift. It will no longer be about importing energy. It will be about exporting stability and talent. Local engineers will monitor reactors. African grids will host modular nuclear units alongside solar and wind. An energy mix will transition toward baseload, low-carbon power. Countries like Ghana, for instance, foresee nuclear offering cheaper tariffs for industry by 2034, unlocking manufacturing corridors. China's role magnifies the geopower dimension. Drill down to the numbers. China spent over $75 billion on SMR and high-voltage transmission R&D and sees Africa as a strategic growth region. Chinese vendor models emphasize localization, technology transfer, local fabrication, and joint venture operations, features that appeal to African policymakers wary of past extractive contracts. Yet skeptics point to risks: political exposure, nuclear safety, financing burden, and potential dependency. Africa's civil society rightly reminds that nuclear projects require long-term governance and waste management frameworks. In South Africa's Mao with CNNC, the proposed 2,500 megawatts nuclear rollout by 2035 is multiple-fold higher than current capacity. It positions Beijing as a partner in Africa's energy future, not just a supplier of minerals or infrastructure. The shift in narrative is profound. Africa is designing its grid architecture with Chinese blueprints and African ambition. SMRs are still commercial nascent globally. Regulatory frameworks in Africa are uneven. Financing often relies on state-backed loans with long amortization periods. Grid adaptation, fuel cycle security, and human capital remain limited. In Ghana, for instance, the deal includes both Chinese large reactor and U.S./Japan SMR vendors, creating a dual-track competition that may complicate implementation. Nonetheless, the timeline has shrunk. Where nuclear deals took decades in the past, African governments are aiming for first deployment by the 2030s. The process is accelerating. Blackouts are not just inconvenience, they cost economies. In sub-Saharan Africa, power outages alone are estimated to reduce GDP growth by up to 2 percentage points annually. In manufacturing corridors, reliability defines foreign investment. Nuclear offers a skim of that reliability. If African cities, ports, and mine sites move from wheezing diesel backup to consistent atomic baseload, the economic effect will ripple beyond just kilowatts. Take Namibia's uranium hub. Instead of exporting raw or for enrichment abroad, the country could power its own refineries, advanced manufacturing, and even become a uranium refining center for southern Africa. Kenya's geothermal plus nuclear ambition merges clean renewables with atomic baseload. Together, they shift the narrative from scarcity to sovereignty. China's entry into Africa's nuclear energy sector must therefore be understood not solely in reactor deals, but in competence influence and the writing of an energy ledger that benefits Africa as much as it does Beijing. Technology aside, the human factor resonates. Across Africa, young engineers are retraining. At South Africa's NECSA, Kenya's Nuclear Regulatory Authority, and Ghana's Ghana Atomic Energy Commission, nuclear power becomes not foreign technology, but our grid backbone. The West is watching. U.S. and European firms, historically dominant in nuclear exports, face cost overruns, slow licensing, and regulatory hurdles. A report by the World Bank in June 2025 signaled a policy shift, lifting its ban on nuclear financing for developing countries. That shift aligns with Africa's own ambitions, but it also emphasizes competition. China's state-backed model, U.S. Private sector technology and European standards all jostle for position. Africa sits at the pivot. By 2040, if Africa adds even 1/10 of the nuclear capacity currently discussed, its grid will be radically transformed. Load factor reliability will rise. Industry will anchor where power is stable. Remote regions may connect through modular units, and data centers may migrate to Africa for cost and climate reasons. The blackout-prone economies of yesterday could become the powerhouses of tomorrow. Yet for this to materialize, the continent must navigate the trade-offs: nuclear safety, waste disposal, financing transparency, skilled workforce, and grid integration. African governments must remain vigilant, ensuring terms that deliver value, not just reactors, that train African talent, not just import foreign crews, that integrate nuclear into a broader energy system, not treat it as a silver bullet. When China's reactors spin in Africa, the moment will be more than kilowatts and contracts. It will be the hour when Africa said, "We will not be dark anymore. The lights will stay on. Factories will hum. Servers will click. Mines will dig. Cities will glow. And in that glow will be a declaration of autonomy, ingenuity, and engineered hope. A continent's blackout solution will not arrive by chance. It will be built with steel, science, and sovereignty. And if anyone doubts it, they need only look at the agreements, the vendors lining up, the reactors planned, and the power gap that is aching to be filled. Africa's future may very well be nuclear, and in its heart stands China's quiet reactor revolution. You've been watching Africa Geo Trends, where Africa's moves shape the world. If you haven't already, subscribe now and stay ahead of the next big story.